Oh my. Hey Retrospectors, welcome to another Ralph's Retrospect, and today we have a very own guest. It's Ralph!
Hey guys. Hey Chris, thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always nice to be a guest on your own show, isn't it?
I know, right? Yeah.
I mean, actually, it's kind of interesting because, a lot of people have been commenting in the comment section of some of my videos of like, hey, this is Ralph's show. Where's Ralph? And
Well, I
so,
guess this would be a good time to kind of talk about that real quick. We can talk
sure.
about maybe how we met, and then I'll talk about how this even came to be the whole Ralph's Retrospect thing, if that's okay.
Absolutely, go ahead.
All right. So how I met Chris was that we were both entrenched pretty deep in this whole arcade one-up modding community when that first kind of started, and I had seen a modification that Chris made, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool!" And I was starting the Retro Ralph YouTube channel. It didn't really even exist much yet, and I asked him, "Hey, I think that's really neat. I'm really impressed by what you did. Would you mind like featuring it on the channel?" And then when he's, "Oh yeah, sure," And the funny thing is Chris sends me back this video, and it was like pretty well made, and I'm all, like this isn't some guy with like his just phone. He was like pretty detailed, and it was really good. So that kind of started our relationship, and we realized we had a lot of commonality. He works in technology, I work in technology, so it was pretty interesting way to get the relationship started. And then we just kept working with each other more and more, and I thought Chris has a lot of he has a lot of knowledge about things in gaming that I don't, and I thought, wow, maybe I hit more the arcade side, but Chris is like really entrenched in NES and NES collecting and things like that. Beyond that, but I thought it would be fun for us to collaborate and have like kind of two channels in one, if you will, with Chris covering different content than what I would typically cover.
Yep, and I really do. I guess we're trying to build our base, not just around arcade one-up, but just in video game in general, because you can only take the arcade one-up stuff so far, and the video gaming scene is just so much bigger and so much more inclusive and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
that's
so many depths of it, right? There's a lot
sure.
of levels.
Yep. Yeah, so today's retrospect, we actually want to talk about the NES Sharp TV. All right, so the NES TV itself was brought out in 1989, and it was released at a trade show, and also one of the big things about the NES TV is that it had RGB built directly onto from the TV to the Nintendo itself. So the image is really crisp, really sharp, and it's very vibrant. If you've played NES any length of time and you look at this, you're like, wow, that is really interesting. Also, the system came with two black controllers. They look a little bit different from the normal ones, and they go for about $80 online. And the one thing about these particular NES TVs is that they have these feet on them. There's 4 different feet, and they break real easy. That's kind of sad because these things are really rare to begin with. There's only maybe a couple thousand that were made here in America, and I saw a guy who was shipping one like in this crate, and he had the feet tied down to these boards, and when he shipped it, like all 4 feet broke, and that's like really sad because again these things are so rare, and when you do see them up on eBay, a lot of times some at least one of the feet are broken, if not more, and they were just really fragile. But like I said, the story behind this one in particular is that my friend was in Wichita, Kansas, where his aunt lives, and he sent me a text, and that's kind of explaining what happened in the intro. Is that a true story, where he texted me and said, "Hey, my aunt had this in her closet for 15 years, and it's not doing anything. Can you take a look at this and tell me if it's worth anything?" And I saw it, and I was kind of floored because I never thought I'd actually seen one in real life. I had seen,
Uh,
the Gaming Historian, I think, did a video on it, and it's one of those things I always thought was like, wow, that'd be so cool to own, but never thought you'd ever actually see one. And apparently some people had gotten flown out from Wichita to Vegas to see this trade show, and some people bought it from Wichita, and this was the one that he brought back, and I picked it up from him for a good price, and it was really neat. It was just really cool. And it turns out, more to the story, is that there are other people in Wichita that still have these. There's at least one other one that his aunt's neighbor has one, and I was just like, there were 2 in the same neighborhood. Like I was like, this is crazy. Like, and these things are so rare. They're just unicorns out in the wild. So
that's so weird.
yeah.
So I didn't realize Wichita was a hotbed for the NES TV. So
Yeah, and he's funny. It's funny. He says when things come into Wichita, like Wichita's, there's the next big city is several hours away, and that when things come to Wichita, they just don't leave because people don't leave Wichita. So, and they're just still everything that comes in there just stays there. So it was really interesting that this particular thing happened. So. But that's kind of one of the things we want to talk about too, is that it's not just the NES TV, because if you wanted to watch a video on the NES TV, there's plenty of videos out there to talk about it. But one of the cool things that we try to focus on, that I've been focusing on the past several years, are stories behind these collector's pieces, these unicorns that are out in the wild. How do people get them? Like, what's the story behind them? And sharing that with people. And I say that we've been doing this for a couple of years because back in 2014, we came out with a movie called Another Man's Treasure, a collector's movie. Ralph, you got a chance to see it. What did you think about it?
yeah, no, I really enjoyed the movie. It was one of those things where I don't really think of myself as a collector.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I was a little reluctant to watch. And then I started watching it and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so neat. And I noticed really quickly in the movie that I was more interested in the stories behind the collections than the collections themselves, although the collections were really impressive. And then it made me kind of do a little self-reflection too on, am I maybe a collector in denial? Because I love arcade games. I do tend to collect arcade games. So so it was kind of interesting. And then there's other elements of the movie that were really, really cool too. There's some sentimental things in there that having to do with your own family, which were touching to me. And so it was just it was a great movie, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and that is the point. It was more about the stories behind the collections. Yeah, the collections were cool. It was really nice to see those things, but it was connecting with those people on an individual basis and understand, like, they want their stories told. They want people to hear the stories, and and also we talked to a psychologist about getting into the minds of collectors and things like that. And before we get into all that, I would like to actually go ahead and share with you guys the trailer for the movie, just so you can maybe get a feel for it.
It's cool to see, even in just this little endeavor, like what people have, like what we've uncovered.
So the real question is, does George Lucas know he's the father of the laser tag industry?
Laser tag, I am your father. Every piece to people's collection has a story behind it.
You're like, wow, you're the guy who made Batman, and I love Batman. It's awesome, right?
These really cool stories of either how they got it, or how it was made, or how, just the history behind it that just nobody knows.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, collecting is nothing without the stories and the adventures and the friendships that come from it. If you don't have any friends that you're sharing it with, then what's the point?
My name is Chris Geizot. I work as an IT specialist in Indianapolis. I have a wife, 2 daughters, and a huge collection of video games. It's been such a huge part of my life, and it's something I love talking to people about. It's a story that has shaped who I am, and it's an experience many others share as well. Oh, and if that's not bad enough, I started getting my kids into the love of video games, and oh, the monsters I've created. Taking to the road, my brother and I talk to everyday people, gathering all the stories that people have for collecting, whether it's about the art of perceived value, the preservation of history, or just really cool stories.
There's nothing like a good guitar, man. It's sexy.
And it was Robert Hanley's collection that proved that. So it's a big, big deal.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Why you want to collect that?
I have no idea.
It's personal. It's very, very personal.
It's interesting. Collecting is definitely a phenomenon.
We ask the hard questions.
Does your collection define you? Like, what would be, do you think, is the hardest thing for you to get? If you had it, you'd be like, I could stop here.
Oh, yeah, that's never gonna happen.
So, will you ever stop collecting?
What would you say matters most to you in your life?
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe Farren, she was 3 in that movie, and now she just turned 8 like a month ago. It's just crazy how long it's been. Can't believe it's almost been 5 years.
She's so cute. She's going to appear in another video too, huh, coming up?
Yeah, actually, she's in the next Retrospect video. So yeah, you'll get a chance to see kind of how she's aged a little bit. But yeah, very proud of her. She's doing really good. One of the cool things about this whole endeavor is just the feeling that it brings up these nostalgic feelings, as far as showing off my collection and, even your collection. You collect video games too. And, there is that feeling of nostalgia in there. When you start to play a specific game, you're taken back to another time. You're taken back to these specific feelings. Like, what were you doing at the time when Super Mario 3 came out and Batman came out and, all these other things? I'm sure you can speak to something like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of mine end up going back to arcades, to be honest. So, like, even though I have memories of console games, a lot of it, like, I just did a video on light guns, and I can't tell you how many quarters I pumped into Terminator 2, the arcade game, the stand-up light gun game. And just like my friends and I, we were so enamored with Terminator. Like, Terminator 2 was, like, such a technological marvel of a movie. And like, the fact that there was a game, I just remember us, like, we couldn't wait to go to the arcade to play it. But those are cool memories, because these were kids I grew up with, where we built these, like, long-standing relationships. It's just really neat. And a lot, honestly, Chris, a lot of it has to do with, a lot of even why I do this in general is totally about nostalgia, bringing back those feelings, because you're only a kid once, and, those are some pretty magical moments usually. And you want to go back to them, and it's interesting that you can tie these games to those particular points in your life.
Absolutely. You're talking about arcades. I used to go to every arcade, like, every day, like all the arcades around Indianapolis, like, every day. And whenever I hear Tom Petty, anytime I hear Tom Petty's Mary Jane's Last Dance, I am reminded of Mortal Kombat 2, as odd as that sounds, because it was always playing at Fun City. Every time I went there, every time I played Mortal Kombat 2, so every time I hear Mary Jane's Last Dance, I think of Mortal Kombat 2.
That's a weird one, kind of, but cool.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's just one of those things. Again, it goes back to nostalgia. It's like, oh man, but that was such a great time. I was learning fatalities and stuff, and I was teaching other people how to play and stuff. It was such a great time in life, man. It's such a great time. And it's funny, in our movie, when we talk about nostalgia, we talk to this guy named Shane Turgeon. He's one of the most knowledgeable people we talk to. He's a very notable collector in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. The clip I actually want to show you guys has to deal with nostalgia and kind of the feelings and stuff. And he brings into perspective a lot. So you get a chance to see a little bit of my collection and some of the things he had to say. It was really cool.
Okay, you really need to stop telling Farren about our childhood so much. She just called me Beast Man.
Oh, it could be worse. She calls her mom Man at Arms.
So, did you come to a decision yet on all this stuff?
No. Every time I go through this stuff, I just get confused. I don't know what to do.
I'm sure you'll figure it out. Is that the Nintendo World Championships?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Man, I haven't seen this thing in years. Oh, man. Do you remember when the Nintendo World Championships came to Indianapolis?
Yep, it was 1990. It was the same year Super Mario Bros. 3 and Batman came out. We went to the video store and rented them, remember?
Oh yeah, we must have played those games like all night.
Mm-hmm. We were so primed that night from going to the convention center. Gosh, remember we got to actually play test the Game Boy and play all those new games that were coming out? It was just a fantastic time, and it's actually kind of what inspired this Nintendo room.
Oh man, it makes for such a great story.
It's just one more to add to the stack we've collected the past 3 months.
So I guess that makes us the collectors of collectors.
Yep, that was the point, right?
Yeah, to gather the stories about all these collections and look at the various aspects of why people, collect what they do.
Yeah, and of all the people we talked to, Shane Turgeon was definitely the most knowledgeable in his field.
By far.
Can you tell us your name and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, my name is Shane Turgeon. I do a lot. I own a tattoo, toy, and comic book store in Edmonton, Alberta called Shades of Grey. I am the co-founder and general manager of the Edmonton Comic and Entertainment Expo. I am the founder and director of the Edmonton CollectorCon, and I am the author of a coffee table book on Star Wars tattoos called The Force in the Flesh.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's a lot to take on. What is it that you collect?
I primarily collect vintage Star Wars figures in 3 3/4-inch G.I. Joe, with an emphasis on prototype and pre-production material from those lines. But I also dabble in a lot of other 70s and 80s toy lines, comic books, and original comic book artwork.
What are some of the cool prototypes that you have?
In the Star Wars world, I have a run, which is basically what a lot of pre-production collectors will try to do, is put together as many examples of something from the development of one particular action figure or toy, and that's called a run. And I have a run on a droid animated character called Val Jobin. where I have pretty much every known example of pre-production material. Everything from the original wax sculpt to several hard copies, different first shots, the original packaging painting, several packaging proofs, and every known prototype for the coin that came with the figure. So my collection is not very big, but it's full of mind-blowing things. So in terms of just, sheer numbers, I have a complete loose set of vintage figures and a complete set of G.I. Joe figures from 1982 to 1989. And that's really about it. I don't really go overboard in terms of finding, like having thousands and thousands and thousands of figures anymore. I'm more about just having a nice, refined, small collection.
Man, Shane knew so much about collectibles.
Yeah, I asked him why he thinks I collect for my kids, and this is what he told me.
I think it's that familiarity thing where you can relate to your kid, in that they like this item and you grew up with that item, and then you can have that bond and you can share that. There's a really big reason why, brands like Star Wars, Transformers, Masters of the Universe, My Little Pony, and are resurging again and are at the top of the toy charts, because that generation that grew up with them is now having those kids, and they loved those toys then, so now they get to share that experience of loving that toy with their children now.
Yeah, I guess that is true. I think maybe that is what I'm trying to do, is find that common ground between us. That is a good point.
So that was basically Shane's take on the, why we collect some of the things that we do, and I felt like everybody we talked to had a great, aspect on that, and we definitely wanted to get different perspectives on it, and I think we did that pretty good throughout the whole movie. So I highly suggest, if you guys are interested, to go into 317films.com and checking it out. We'd absolutely love for you to get your eyes on it and let me know what you think about it. It'd be really cool. So, and again, bringing it back to the unicorns out in the wild, all these hard to find items, they have great stories, and we want to hear from you guys. If you guys have found things in the out there collecting it, maybe it's different stores, or maybe you found something at a garage sale, or at your aunt's house, something like that. We'd love to hear those kinds of stories. Comment down below. Let us know what you think. And it would be really cool to be able to hear those stories and build our community around those kinds of stories. I mean, that's how we get to know each other better, and kind of delve into each other's lives and building great friendships. I mean, that's how we, you and I got a chance to be friends. So
yeah, and I think the only thing I'll add there is I do feel like this sense of community that this community that we've developed, I want it to broaden, and I think that was part of the reason why Chris and I clicked so much, is because he's just got he finds out all these really unique things, and I also appreciate the depth of which he finds, digs into them and try to find more information about like just rare and unique things around video gaming and other stuff. So I want to encourage people that enjoy the Retro Ralph stuff to just cross over, and it's on the same channel, and I've made playlists for it. So there's a Ralph's Retrospect playlist. Like, go check it out. I think you'll probably find that there's a lot of really unique things in there, and maybe stuff that you didn't even know about. So I just want to encourage you to take a look at that, and I think vice versa. We have people that are now more Retrospect fans that can go over and check out the Retro Ralph stuff. So, but anyways, I appreciate, number one, Chris, for all the stuff he does, and for all of you guys for watching, because if it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't be here. So
sure, and we're gonna do more collaboration videos. It's gonna be more. There's gonna be more stuff where Ralph and I get a chance to talk about stuff and dive into really cool videos. And
I may even come visit Chris, maybe. You never know.
Bring it, man. Bring it. I've got a great idea for a video if you do come out. It'd be awesome.
All right, so maybe we'll see.
Absolutely, and you'll be more than welcome. I'll show you around Indy. It's pretty neat. So, and with that, so we'll go ahead and stop here. But if you guys like the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to be notified more of Retro Ralph, hit that bell for notifications. And we will see you guys on the next Ralph's Retrospect. See ya.